The Dark Avengers are just a flat out cool concept. Take everything that's awesome about the Avengers and make it edgier, deadlier, and darker, and that's exactly what you get. Whether it's Wolverine's son Daken, the Hulk's son Scar, or the classic Daredevil villain Bullseye, it doesn't get a whole lot cooler than this team. But that doesn't mean they escape the usual comic book cheesiness. From names to costumes to concepts, comic books actually know pretty few limits when it comes to silliness. And the Dark Avengers aren't exempt from this at all. They've had some really ridiculous members of their own. So I thought today it'd be pretty fun if we take a look at the 4 most ridiculous members of the Dark Avengers. In particular, 4 Dark Avengers who should never come onto the big screen in the MCU's take on that team. 4. Taxidoxie. Now, Taxidoxie could easily take the number 1 spot based on her name alone. Posing as the Dark Avengers Scarlet Witch, what makes Taxidoxie particularly ridiculous, besides her name of course, is that her powers are just kind of all over the place. She's played up as your typical evil sorceress, but with these weird biological abilities like antiseptic breath, bones that can soften, pheromone control, and even fingernails coated in neurotoxin. Her powers don't actually have anything to do with the Scarlet Witch at all. So her background doesn't really connect to anything that Scarlet Witch did on the previous team. And so Taxidoxie just doesn't win enough cool points to make up for her sheer ridiculous. 3. Iapek. And sorry for butchering that name, but I literally have only ever read that name in the comic books. I've never heard it in any of the animation or anywhere else. So I'm going to try my best to just, muscle through pronouncing it. Now, Iapek is better known as the Decapitator, a multi-armed death god known for, decapitating people. And on the Dark Avengers team, he stood alongside Taxidoxie Scarlet Witch as a stand-in for Spider-Man. And, as a shapeshifter, he could easily make himself look like Spider-Man, but his edgy darkness probably went too far over the edge and didn't quite hit the cool mark and just made him seem, a little bit too ludicrous. 2. Ragnarok. Now, Ragnarok has every reason to be cool, and for a lot of people he is, just not for me. Best known for killing Bill Foster during Civil War, Ragnarok was originally known as Klor because, he's a clone of Thor, because Thor didn't participate in Civil War due to, I guess, the events of Ragnarok, not the character's name, the actual end of the Asgardian universe. Now, looking in some incarnations like a Terminator version of Thor and in others as a more cybernetic mix of genetics and robotics, he definitely had an inferiority complex, and for good reason. Because he was just a copy of Thor, so he really felt like he had a chip on his shoulder because of that. He's barely appeared since he became fully organic in Dark Avengers, and that may be because Marvel is all ready to forget about him. Now, number 1 is kind of controversial. You've heard me mention this character in other videos, but I think he definitely deserves to be number 1 in our cheesiest MCU Dark Avengers, and that's Trickshot. Trickshot takes the gold for the Dark Avengers most ridiculous member because, where do we begin? His name is Marty Barton, and he's literally Hawkeye's brother. Now, you've seen me mention him in other videos before, and I kind of said some things that were kind of in a good light because I was focusing on Hawkeye's miniseries. He had a 4-part miniseries where he was the secondary antagonist along with Baron Zemo, and he was actually pretty cool. But whenever he was in the Dark Avengers, he was just kind of really, really lame. He was an obvious stand-in as an evil version of Hawkeye, and it just really didn't make that much sense. Whereas the heroic Archer legitimizes his place among Earth's mightiest heroes because he's the greatest marksman in the world, Trickshot is just, kind of a B-level archer. And if you really think about it, a bow and arrow fired alongside Mjolnir summoning lightning or Iron Man blasting repulsors is only cool if the archer wielding it is literally number 1. And sorry to Trickshot, but we know from that miniseries with Hawkeye and Baron Zemo that Trickshot is clearly number 2. So, sorry, but if you're not number 1 as the greatest archer or, greatest sword duelist in the world, you just look too silly fighting against supervillains and superheroes to really make up for your cheesiness. Alright, there's my top 4 Dark Avengers that I think are too cheesy to join the MCU. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and if you want to change anything up here, if you want a new topic, just go ahead and let me know about that too.